I'm going to not call her Kamala because I noticed that female presidents tend to be called by the first name.
Forse starei dalla parte di Kamala, ma ci sono tante cose da rivedere.
Not Donald Trump. Not him. I have zero respect for him.
Ma guarda, io devo dire la verità, non sono molto interessato né esperto.
Allora, vorrei che gli Stati Uniti avessero una leadership forte, che adesso non hanno.
Buongiorno a tutti ragazzi, Luca here. In previous videos I received many comments like, Luca, what do Italians think about the American elections? Are they more Democrats or Republicans? And as a candidate, do they prefer the Donald or Kamala? Today we're gonna find out. If we really want to understand the complicated relationships between the United States election and Italy, we need to address some points. First, it is require a general knowledge of the Italian perception toward the United States as a country. And to seek this purpose, I really recommend you watching my two last videos that I link in the description down below. But specifically when it comes to the elections, I really think that it's important to understand what the United States represents for Italy in 2024, historically, economically, militarily. That's very important. Do you want to win the American election?
Allora, vorrei che gli Stati Uniti avessero una leadership forte, che adesso non hanno. Tra i due preferirei Kamala Harris perché rispetto a Trump, diciamo, mi sembra meno idiota. Credo che al mondo serva una leadership forte in America. Non credo che uno o l'altro faccia grandi differenze nelle questioni del mondo, nel senso che sulla guerra in Ucraina e la questione in Israele credo che più o meno le cose restino come sono. Per l'Italia ci sarebbero differenze se vincesse Trump, forse per un eventuale dialogo maggiore con la Meloni, anche se lui ha interesse a distruggere la NATO.
And the United States is literally our master father, the country that has been controlling our sovereignty and our foreign policy since the end of World War II. From that moment on, Italy is a country, again, with a limited level of sovereignty, is a country that is a satellite of the American empire, as it is true for most of countries in Europe at different levels. So, for example, our security is completely dependent on the presence of the American fleet in the Mediterranean. So what happens in the US has a decisive importance for us. We know this very well because we invented this system. I am in front of the Museum of the Roman Civilization. The Romans invented this system of an empire based on the satellites. We know what it's like, but now, unfortunately, we are on the other side, the dark side of the moon. And it's funny because every time there is a bilateral summit between the Italian Prime Minister and the President of the United States, the President of the United States will always say something like,
Look, Italy and the United States are strong allies and really close friends.
Yeah, sure, which translated in the geopolitical dictionary means our relationship, dear Italy, is not an equal one. We are the monsters and you are the ones who take orders. So you do exactly what we demand you to do, which is in our best interest, because if you don't do that, we're not gonna defend you anymore. Okay? And we are very good at taking orders. So for the Americans, despite not having zero geopolitical interest for the Americans, we went to Afghanistan, we went to Iraq, and now our military contingent is in Lebanon. It has been bombed already numerous times and is absolutely in the midst of the war between Israel and Hezbollah.
In data 10 ottobre l'avamposto è stato fatto oggetto di colpi d'arma da fuoco da parte delle forze armate israeliane.
So what happens in the center of the empire in Washington DC has a tremendous importance for the destiny of Italy, and this is why in our country we follow the American elections with a tremendous level of accuracy and coverage. We have broadcasters, newspapers who follow the elections from the very beginning with the primary elections of the Dems and the Republicans till the very end of the electoral process. And we have also lots of journalists, Italian journalists, who report from the US. Who would you vote?
È una scelta difficile, comunque, tra una democrazia che non esiste di Trump e una democrazia sbagliata. Forse sarei dalla parte di Kamala, ma ci sono tante cose da rivedere. Comunque è auspicabile che si definiscano dei criteri per una democrazia che sia davvero considerabile tale e che possa fungere da guida anche per l'Europa.
But despite the vital, crucial importance of the American elections for our country and its incredible media coverage, this does not mean that for ordinary people this is a particularly important topic. Standard Italians do not a lot about the American elections and their complicated mechanisms that are very different from Italian and also European elections in general. They just limit themselves to liking one or the other candidate without going much in depth. Trump or Kamala, who would you vote?
Ma guarda, io devo dire la verità, non sono molto interessato né esperto su questo campo. Tra i due, anche diciamo forse mosso dai media italiani che ci fanno credere che Trump non sia insomma dannoso per il mondo, forse propenderei per Kamala e non per Donald.
If we talk about the ruling classes, people with a higher level of education, wealthier people in general, the situation is much different and the involvement in the American elections is much, much deeper. This kind of people tend to see the American election, the American parties and the candidates as a continuation of the Italian political system. So they get very involved, but there is a problem. Despite the fact that things get a little bit closer in the last 15-20 years, what is right and left in America is completely different from what right and left is in Italy. Trump or Kamala, who would you vote?
So I think I would vote for Harris. I'm going to not call her Kamala because I noticed that female presidents tend to be called by the first name, in my opinion, as a sign of less respect than male presidents. So I would say Harris, I would vote her. It would be nice to see a female president and obviously to avoid all the problems that Trump has caused.
Who do you want to win the American election?
Not Donald Trump. Not him. I have zero respect for him. I disregard him as a politician. And I don't like him as a human being either. And I think that, you know, even though it is a politician leading a nation, because the nation is such an important nation, the human side has relevance. So, not Trump.
Just to make you understand, our right, the one that is governing now, the party is called Fratelli d'Italia, Brothers of Italy, and the Prime Minister is Giorgia Meloni, is very different from the American classic right. It emphasizes much more the role of a strong, centralized government, and despite being absolutely capitalist, it has a much less liberal, economically liberal vision than the American one, with less emphasis on individual liberties, low taxation, that are absolutely cornerstones of the Republican Party in general. On the other hand, what Americans define as left for real hardcore left-wing Italians would be far to the right. You have to understand that throughout the 20th century here in Italy we have had by far the strongest and most influential communist party in Western Europe with millions of followers, and actually the Americans throughout the century did everything to prevent this party to govern it from governing Italy and from falling in the hands of the Soviet sphere of influence. Therefore, even today in Italy, many people, they would love to see measures such as abolition of private property or abolition of borders between states, non-stopping, non-controlled immigration. These are things that in America even the most progressive members, the most left-wing members of the Democratic Party, such as, I don't know, Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, they would never say. Not in a million years. And it's funny because our party, this party that I'm talking about, is called Partito Democratico, the Democratic Party, but it's very different, as you now know, from the American Democratic Party, way more to the left.
Grandi movimenti di operai, di contadini, di studenti.
So we certainly have to keep in mind the fact that Italian and American political system are completely different. That's important. But having said that, we certainly cannot ignore the fact that in the last 10 to 15 years there has been an important alignment of the Italian ideology to the American one. So the Italian left and right now are a little bit more similar to American left and right. And that's normal because American political ideology is an avant-garde, is the center of the empire, and from the center of the empire these new political ideas and ideology tend to spread all across the satellites of the empire, such as Italy. So things like the woke movement or the green movement or other things tend to get important in countries like Italy, but with a delay of several years, but they do get important. And for this reason, the influence of American political ideology in Italy, there is a certain group of Italians, a social group, the upper middle class, so people who we might define in Italy as radical chic, hipster. These people, they're not the classic Italian hardcore communist left. Their values are very similar to the one of the, let's say, California-style Democratic Party, so they value a lot wokeism, the Green Deal, civil rights. So for these people, Kamala, she's just the perfect candidate. Not because of her policies or because they specifically know whether she was a good vice president or not, but just because of who Kamala represents. She's a woman. She's a woman in career. She's of mixed race, daughter of an immigrant family. The father is from Jamaica and the mother was from India. She is a super pro women rights, civil rights in general. So she represents perfectly the ideology of an important part of Italian ruling classes and wealthy people in general. So she would for sure be very popular among Italians, certain kind of Italians, if they could vote for the American elections. And for the same reason, these same people would despise a guy like Donald Trump for the exact opposite reason, for who and what Donald Trump represents. On the other end, speaking about the Donald, I think many Italians who for more than 25 years have voted for the many times Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, they would see a lot of similarities between the two. Both businessmen devoted to politics in the second part of their career, but born as entrepreneurs. Both entered politics promising to break the system, to break the establishment, and to form a new political class, a new ruling class. Both tried to diminish the importance of a centralized government and to put central government on a diet. They both continuously had the contrast with the judiciary system throughout their entire career, accusing judges to be politicized and being controlled by the left. Both were very because Berlusconi died in 2023, both were considered by many very funny people, very extravagant, not very politician style, much more extravagant, as I said. And this worked a lot with most of the people, but the ones who did not like them and their style absolutely despised both of them, because they were both very, very polarizing political characters. And also in private life, they had many things in common, especially the fact that they both, for their entire life and career, they were very, let's say, very, very passionate about the other sex, especially young women, and this marked, mostly in a negative way, their entire career. There is an important difference, the fact that while Donald Trump was born a billionaire, Silvio Berlusconi was not. He was a self-made man. But apart from this, I think there are many, many similarities that an important part of the Italian society would appreciate in a guy like Donald Trump. And they would support him if they could vote him in the American election. If Italians could vote, who would win? Now, it's very difficult to say because we don't have official surveys or opinion polls about these specific topics, because Italians can't vote, of course, for the American elections. But if I have to guess, based on many things that I was considering, for example, the structure of the Italian society, our demographics, the fact that the average Italian is 49, which is insane, the fact that we are very concerned about the immigration from Africa, and in fact we have a right-wing government at the moment, the fact that we are also very concerned about the many conflicts around the Mediterranean, our beloved former personal lake, which is not anymore the Mediterranean, many aspects that are going on in Italy, I think the Donald would win. Not by a landslide, but like 55 to 45. In the interviews you have heard some people supporting Kamala, but the interviews were recorded in the university area where most people are very progressive. So if I could go to the countryside, results would be very, very different. So just that was just a general idea, but we would need like hundreds of interviews to have a specific idea. My idea is that the Donald would win. This is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you like this kind of videos and what you think in general about the Italian perception of the American elections. And please don't forget to subscribe, because I really, really need the channel to grow, to provide you more content. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao ragazzi.